Tonight, the man accused of murdering Emma Caldwell takes to the witness box at the High Court and claims he is the victim of the lies of 25 different women.
Also making the headlines, devil dog or dream pet? An urgent plea for new homes for 4 XL bully-type dogs before a Scotland-wide ban is introduced, as the Scottish SPCA brands the Dangerous Dog Act outdated.
Unfortunately, we don't believe that basing legislation purely on the way that a dog looks is the appropriate answer.
The new Arran-bound Calmac ferry, the Glen Sannox, finally set sail for its first sea trial after a 6-year delay.
And we head to the coastline as the impact of avian flu on the seabird population is revealed. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mckel in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. The man accused of murdering Emma Caldwell claims he is the victim of the lies of 25 different women. Ian Packer took to the witness box on day 20 of his trial at the High Court in Glasgow to repeatedly deny killing 27-year-old Emma and 35 charges of physical and sexual violence against other females.
The 51-year-old told a jury he'd been left miserable and scared by media reports linking him to the murder over the years, and admitted initially lying to police about knowing Emma because he was frightened of being blamed. Our chief reporter Sharon Frew was in court.
Emma Caldwell disappeared on the 4th of April 2005. Ian Packer told the jury he couldn't remember the last time that he saw the 27-year-old. He said it could have been days, weeks, perhaps even a couple of months before. When asked by his defence advocate how many times he had paid Emma for sex, the 51-year-old replied off the top of his head he couldn't remember. But he then recalled one encounter when he continued to force sexual contact with Emma after she'd asked him to stop in August 2004. Something he now says he feels a bit ashamed of. Ian Packer gave voluntary statements to detectives investigating Emma's murder up until 2007. He said he'd initially lied to them because he was worried about getting blamed. But Packer stated, "I wanted to be honest with them and help them as much as possible." This included taking police to the remote area where he took sex workers in South Lanarkshire. The accused told the jury this was in a different part of the forest to where Emma's body was found in May 2005. Sex workers to Limefield Woods a maximum of 6 times, and said he had taken Emma there once or twice. He admitted on one occasion with another sex worker that he had lost his temper and the woman had become frightened. Behaviour he described in court as disgusting and something he regrets. The High Court heard around the time of Emma's disappearance that Ian Packer was making 60 calls a day to saunas and sex workers. The accused said this wasn't an addiction or an obsession and that he had used prostitutes from the age of 18. Prosecutors withdrew 10 of the allegations Ian Packer originally faced before he began his evidence. The 36 remaining charges mainly centre on sex workers and the women he had been living with at the time. The Advocate Depute Richard Goddard put it to the accused, 25 different women over 21 years, all from unconnected, different walks of life. Are they all just making it up? Ian Packer replied, yes. The Advocate Depute asked, is each one a liar? Yes. They have all picked the one man to tell lies about. Correct. They have all picked the same lie, mainly that you are sexually violent. Might it be that they are telling the truth? No, was the reply. The Advocate Depute put it to Ian Packer, we have heard evidence from a number of women during this trial that you attacked them by targeting their necks. 11 different women, all saying the same thing. Is this coincidence at work again? The accused replied, absolutely. Ian Packer denies all the charges he faces. The trial will continue tomorrow. Sharon Frew, STV News at the High Court in Glasgow.
A leading animal welfare charity says it's urgently trying to rehome 4 XL bully dogs before a ban on the breed comes into force. From the 23rd of February, XL bully dogs must be on a lead, have a muzzle, and the selling, gifting or exchanging of the breeds will be prohibited.
That means the Scottish SPCA have just 10 days to find new owners. The charity says the dogs have gone through rigorous behavioural assessments and are being tarred by bad legislation. Brandon Cook reports.
Enjoying walks this afternoon, Lex and Duchess explored the grounds of their rescue centre. The Scottish SPCA say these XL bullies could be someone's new best friend and could potentially live with older children or cats.
So one thing that they all have in common, any kind of bull type dog that we get in, is they're always really, really cuddly. They're very cuthy and love attention, so they quite often bond to the staff really well and kind of make friends really, really quickly, which is good, so that helps us.
But the charity is working against the clock to find them new owners. In just 10 days, it will be illegal to rehome the breed in Scotland. Owners also must comply to strict muzzling conditions. The legislation was brought forward following a spate of serious attacks and pressure following a ban on the breeds by the UK government.
It does feel very quick. You know, we were given a very short window in which to try and rehome these dogs, and that also means owners in homes as well. You know, if you've got a dog that's been used to being off lead, you know, was really friendly, really sociable, and you've got a few weeks to get them muzzle trained, start keeping them on lead. That's quite a big change.
The charity have what they say are 4 well-natured XL bullies on their books, 2 in Aberdeenshire, 1 in Glasgow and 1 in Lanarkshire. They admit it's likely all will have to be euthanised if no one helps. Kerry Ann owns a number of XL bullies. She says restrictions are putting people off rehoming.
I am losing faith that the homes are now drastically reducing. As a concern that we might not be able to rehome all these dogs by the time the ban comes in. Generally and rescue at the moment, there just aren't enough homes out there.
In recent weeks, there have been a number of dog attacks across the country, including one in Hamilton, which left an owner fighting for his life in hospital. A man has since been charged. The Scottish Government say they were obliged to act to protect public safety and animal welfare, and that the SPCA were regularly consulted and everything is being done to implement the law in the best way possible. For the dogs in their care classed as XL bullies, time is running out. Brandon Cook, STV News.
As Israel steps up its offensive in Rafah, Palestinians in Scotland have told STV News they're petrified for their loved ones, trapped in desperate circumstances ahead of an expected ground invasion.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has asked the military to come up with an evacuation plan for hundreds of thousands of people in the city. But political and humanitarian leaders have warned there's nowhere for them to go. Caitlin Hutchison reports.
Hassan has known conflict all his life. At the age of 12, he says he watched as his mother was shot in the head. He now says the war between Israel and Palestine has cost the lives of more than 50 family members.
I wish time can go back. And I live with my mum extra couple of days. I'm homesick. 5 minutes and God take my soul. I don't mind.
Figures from the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry put the latest Palestinian death toll at more than 28,400. And with so many casualties, Hassan struggles to sleep, knowing his loved ones may not survive the night.
Communication comes and goes. I was speaking to my partner and an hour later, bombs started. I was watching Al Jazeera, I was petrified. Try to phone all night, I was petrified. I went to bed after 4 o'clock in the morning. The following morning, I had a communication. We are fine, don't worry, we are fine, but next door or in the same block, a couple of houses has been blown to pieces. More than 10 people is being killed. Innocent people are sleeping.
This is when we were at the sea in Gaza when I visited.
Salim has lived in Scotland for 11 years and is now desperately trying to help his parents, siblings and their children flee Rafah. The city is currently home to almost 1.5 million people, 5 times its usual population, because so many refugees are sheltering there. The Israel Defence Forces are being urged to come up with an evacuation plan for citizens, but Salim believes a ceasefire is the only way.
Do you want them to move to the moon? where do they go to? Because the rest of Gaza has been completely annihilated. All you can see for thousands of kilometers or miles is just rubble.
Internationally and here at home, there's growing concern about the humanitarian situation, with protesters calling for immediate action.
My family are in Rafah. They've been displaced. People have been asked to move from the north to the south and then to Rafah, as in this is the safe zone. And now the safe zone is being bombed.
They have no food. Starvation is a very big problem now in Gaza and specifically in Rafah. So they have made no way out and they're in the most horrific circumstances that we can even imagine.
Israel says Rafah is the last remaining stronghold for Hamas fighters in Gaza, but it's also currently home to hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians with nowhere to go. Caitlin Hutchison, STV News.
To other stories, and police have confirmed that the death of an elderly woman in Irvine is being treated as murder. Officers found the 81-year-old woman's body at a house in Macara Drive on Sunday. An 82-year-old man, also found injured at the property, has been arrested in connection with the incident.
Investigations are continuing after the death of a 24-year-old woman in Shetland. Police were called to a disturbance in Sandnes on Sunday. A 39-year-old man was arrested and taken to hospital for treatment. Detectives from Police Scotland's major investigation team have been sent to Shetland.
More residential rehab beds are being made available for those with drug addictions, but there are still substantial barriers to getting support. Public Health Scotland has reported an 8% increase in capacity since 2021, but it also found fewer than a quarter of those who referred someone to a service say it was easily accessible. The Scottish Government aims to make 1,000 rehab placements available by 2026.
And council tax should be scrapped in Scotland after the 2026 elections. That's according to a new report by think tank Our Scottish Future. It's also called for councils to be given the power to join together and form Scottish combined authorities, allowing them to work together and pool resources. They say this would give local authorities greater financial discretion and allow them to plan properly. Now, if you were on Scotland's coastline a couple of years ago, it's impossible to forget the sights of large numbers of dead seabirds having been washed up onto the shore, killed by avian flu.
Now, the RSPB says the H5N1 outbreak caused a significant decline in several species of birds. It's warning the virus remains one of the biggest threats to conservation. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
For 13-year-old Evie and her family, a school holiday has meant the chance to visit the Scottish Seabird Centre. Based in North Berwick on the East Lothian coast, it plays a key role in marine conservation and education.
I've been really worried recently about bird flu, so my friends and me have been doing this magazine, and we've done a lot of reporting on bird flu and stuff, and we've also, it's really terrifying to see how there's you can have the photo of before bird flu and after bird flu, and it's just completely decimated the whole area. It's really, really terrifying.
The star attraction here is the Bass Rock, home to one of the largest gannet colonies. In the coming weeks, they'll migrate back here from warmer climes, but it's very likely the numbers will be down on what we've seen in the past. Last year, an STV documentary crew filmed on the Bass Rock up close with the gannet colony. The aftermath of the flu outbreak was still obvious. Now that's been quantified. The UK population of gannets is down by 25%. Maggie leads the boat tours out to the rock.
It was really heartbreaking. I mean, it was soul destroying. I landed on the rock the day we knew it was there, and I was on my own, and I remember thinking, I've watched this colony grow. Over 20 years, I've seen this colony just grow and go from strength to strength. And I think I'm going to watch it die in front of my eyes.
And she told me the re-emergence of the birds will need patience.
There's no question thousands of birds have gone, they've died, or thousands of birds have perhaps lost a partner. And that's what maybe isn't totally understood. If a bird has lost a partner, it's going to have to take a new partner. That takes time.
We need to be building resilience in Scotland's seabirds. So putting offshore offshore developments in places that have the minimum of impact on our seabirds, making our fisheries more sustainable, making sure that we've got a programme of island restoration where seabirds can safely feed and breed their young, making sure we're not overfishing their prey species, a whole raft of measures that will build resilience.
The aim is taking those steps will ensure the seabird population is able to thrive, even if it is hit by any future virus. Gordon Cree, STV News, North Berwick.
A grandfather who was prevented from leaving Dubai after an argument with neighbours on New Year's Eve has been reunited with his family. Ian Mckel was charged with trespassing and verbal assault after a dispute over a noise complaint. He landed back in Scotland earlier today and returned to his family in Aberdeenshire. Oliver Wright reports.
After being barred from leaving Dubai for 6 weeks, Ian Mckel from Newton Hill was reunited with his wife Carol at Glasgow Airport. The 75-year-old had been visiting his daughter in the UAE over the festive season when he went into a neighbour's garden to ask them to turn their music down.
I was despairing at times. At times I thought, oh well, it's not a huge offence. It won't be long. I'll be released soon. Whenever I thought that Carol would be looking at the internet saying, oh, don't believe it, here's another guy that's been jailed for years. But generally, I'm so glad to be back.
Mr Mckel was arrested and charged with trespass and verbal assault. And while he wasn't imprisoned, there was concern that getting home could take months. But last week, he was put in front of a judge over a video call, fined £650 and told he would be able to leave the country. His wife, Carol, has been campaigning for his safe return.
But having read some of the cases, I was really fearful that he was going to be put to prison, which would have been a terrible birthday present for him, that's for sure. It was his birthday yesterday.
Carol's come up trumps again. She's been fantastic.
Well, that's what you do for your husband,
We've been married 49 years, together 53, 4 children, we lost one. And she's been a fantastic mother. 11 out of 10, if I could give her that. Fantastic wife, grandmother.
There's no doubt by this evening we'll have had an argument about something.
His daughter is still in the UAE, and Carol says she won't be put off visiting her in the future. For now, though, there's one thing on Ian's mind.
I said to you a fish supper from the bay in Stonehaven, but we'll see. I don't know.
Oliver Wright, STV News.
One of the delayed and over-budget ferries has started sea trials in a significant step towards being handed over to CalMac. The Glen Sannox left Port Glasgow this afternoon and headed down the Clyde. Costs for it and its sister ship, Glen Rosa, have more than tripled to at least £360 million. They're also expected to be delivered around 6 years late. Further tests will need to take place before the ferry can begin serving the island route. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
This is a moment the Glen Sannox left its berth under its own power for the first time. A significant milestone, according to the Ferguson Marine Yard. The ferry had originally been intended to serve the Arran route from 2018, while today's short journey is a welcome sign of progress. Islanders have had to endure a long wait. Issues at the Ardrossan port have also seen the current service moved to Troon.
We've lost the MV Alfred. We've only got the Isle of Arran. We've been told the Calais Isles isn't going to be back until March. Well, that happened last year, so that's another 3-month stint out. We don't even know if it will come back because apparently some of the biggest problems are to do with the actual structure of the boat itself. It's really quite scary.
This is the first of 3 days of sea trials for the Glen Sannox. Over the next 2 days, it will travel further down the river. Higher speed and endurance testing will take place after April. Costs for this ferry and its sister ship, the Glen Rosa, have more than tripled to around £360 million. The Glen Sannox is now due to be handed over at the end of May. The ferry operator CalMac will then conduct its own sea trials before the vessel finally enters service. But for the Ferguson Marine Yard,
the future looks far from certain.
A bit precarious, if I'm honest with you. We're desperately in need of a direct award for the 7 small ferries to return the yard into profitability and to start paying back the Scottish taxpayer and the Scottish Government's faith in us.
How crucial is that to get that award?
Vitally crucial. There are a lot of jobs on stake here, a lot of young people's opportunities for craft apprenticeships at stake. They've invested so much, it would be absolute lunacy to walk away now.
The Scottish Government says no decision has been made on the next wave of ferries. Islanders can only hope future contracts run far more smoothly. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
Eyewitnesses have described the moment an elderly man was pulled to safety from a Glasgow flat that had gone up in flames. 3 people have been taken to hospital after the fire in Copeland Road around 2:40 this afternoon, which took 4 fire engines to put out.
You know, the woman screaming, and I ran around and she said, "There's a fire in my house." And I tried to run in with all the black smoke, and I put this in my heat around my thing, but I couldn't see, so I had to run back out, put my torch on, and I stopped on the motors to ask everybody to help because there were nobody there. But at least the guy got out anyway. It was terrible. It just happened within seconds.
Let's go to the sport now, and here's Raman.
Cheers, John. Good evening to you all. Philippe Clement says his Rangers players can still reach another level as they get set to face Ross County tomorrow night. The Alberts club have the chance to overtake Celtic at the top of the Premiership if they beat the Dingwall side by a margin of 3 goals. Here's Ronnie Charters.
Since his arrival, Philippe Clement has transformed Rangers. A club in trouble under Michael Beale, now moving in the right direction. A support that had lost faith in the players, now fully behind them in the stands. And a team won 7 points behind Celtic, now with a chance to overtake their rivals. But for Clement, there's more to come.
We're growing, we're getting better. I think it's clear for everybody. It's also clear in the data that there is more distance run, there are more sprints, there is more high intensity than a few months ago. But we're not at our top. But you need a really good preparation to go to the next level. In this level, we are pushing things to make it better, and I think it will be better at the end of the season also.
Leon Balogun is doubtful for the visit of Ross County as he continues his recovery from a facial injury. That means John Souttar will likely continue in defence as Rangers look to leapfrog Celtic. But the centre-half revealed there's no title talk under the Rangers manager.
He's not interested in the future, he's banging right in the now. Day-to-day training, instead of thinking in the future, this game, he's bang on, been on it in training. And then the next game is massive, and there's a real emphasis on that. It's not thinking 2 or 3 games in front. He's next session, next game, and I think that keeps everyone on their toes.
Ronnie Charters, STV News.
Now, after naming Jane Ross in his squad for the upcoming Pinnater Cup, Scotland women's head coach Pedro Martinez-Losa says the Rangers striker is one of the best players he's worked with. Ross, who's approaching 150 caps, returns to the international fold after 17 months out with a knee injury. The Scots face the Philippines and either Slovenia or Finland in the tournament later this month.
One of the best professionals I ever met in my career. Obviously, she's going through a process of injuries, and now she's looking in a good form. So we have had continuous conversation with Jane and Rangers and the manager to know if she was in the best position. So we both agreed at the 3 parts, the player and the club and us, that she was ready. And I think it's good news for us. It's a player who knows the game very well.
Scottish Rugby have written to the sports governing body asking them to admit match officials made a mistake in Scotland's Six Nations clash against France on Saturday. Gregor Townsend's side thought they'd scored a match-winning try in the final seconds of the game. The referee referred the incident to the television match official. He initially said a try should be awarded, believing the ball had been grounded, before changing his mind, stating the pictures were inconclusive. Scottish Rugby are now challenging the decision. Staying with rugby, and Kyle Steyn is amongst a quintet of Scotland players returning from international duty for Glasgow Warriors' URC match against Dragons on Saturday. Staying, Johnny Matthews, Stafford McDowell, Jamie Batty and Jamie Doby are available for the visit of the Welsh side. The Warriors are third in the table.
It's always a boost when you get guys back, especially the likes of Jamie Doby, who's obviously been out for a significant amount of time now, so it's great that he's back fit and available for selection. And it just, it gives us a really good group here, even with the numbers that we have playing for Scotland to choose from. It's brilliant.
Finally, snooker news, and Anthony Mcgill is through to the third round of the Welsh Open after defeating Longzhu Wang by 4 frames to 1. That, folks, is all your sport tonight. See you again tomorrow.
Thanks for that, Raman. OK, let's get the weather now with Sean.
Low pressure will be accompanied by a sudden downpour of deliciousness. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. This time yesterday we had some pretty lively showers bubbling up those big CBs in places, cumulonimbus clouds that brought us some hail and some rumbles of thunder. At least this evening though, it'll be much quieter. A lot of dry weather, plenty of clear spells around. Temperatures down to about 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, but I expect we could see a bit of a frost. Parts of South Lanarkshire and further north of the Central Belt into parts of Perthshire and also Stirlingshire. Now a bit of a cold, frosty reception for some of us this Valentine's, especially further north where we've got some clearer spells, but changing quite quickly. Cloudy, wet weather moving in from the south, so really tomorrow is looking very wet for many of us. Will be some heavy bursts of rain at times. Top temperatures 10 degrees, lights of Stranraer and Girvan, so we're up to about 50 degrees in Fahrenheit. On Thursday, weather fronts over the top of us, so there'll be plenty of rain around once again. So tomorrow, looking wet, some heavy bursts of rain at times. Wet again on Thursday, some heavy rain, but I've put some drier weather in the far southwest. By the end of the day, we will start to see some drier, maybe even brighter weather pushing into parts of Ayrshire and also Argyll and Bute by the end of Thursday, but predominantly still wet. Little bump in the isobars comes to rescue on Friday, a little ridge of high pressure before this heads our way on Saturday. So it should be a little bit drier and brighter on Friday before more rain spreads its way in from the Atlantic just in time for the weekend. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And that's all from us. But John, you have Scotland tonight?
Might have, might not. You'll need to stay up to see.
Well, with that solid confirmation, I'll definitely be tuning in to make sure you're there.
Thank you for watching. Good night.